You're listening to Living at the Highest Level with LATHL.
You're listening to Living at the Highest Level with LATHL. Today, we have a bunch of great people on this podcast. We have Corey Eliaf, Matt Eliaf, Andrew Ayo, and Kyle Zelazny, joined by our special guest, Pat Cross, cross trainer at Holistic Health Playground and Sports Conditioning. So we have a jam-packed room full of some great insight for you guys today. And the main topic of discussion today is going to be change. Yes, people, we're talking about real change, permanent change, the type of change that you write things down, the type of change that actually you take action, change that you actually make progressions to where you were, to where you really want to be. And it's not really about the goal setting today. It's about understanding what causes people to change and analyzing the detail here. And Pat Cross has a lot of great insight for us today. So Pat, I'm going to kick it off to you. From your own experience training hundreds of people into making like their personal lifestyle changes, be it emotional, physical, or even spiritual, what do you see that makes people want to change? What are some of the actions that happen that really evoke change in someone's life, Pat?
For me, there's two great invitations to changing your life. One is a traumatic crisis, right? If I hit bottom, if I get to the point where I have no choice but to go up, and bottom is different for every individual, but whatever my bottom is, hitting bottom leaves me with no choice. I can't continue down the path because I've hit bottom. There's nowhere else to go. The other invitation is a dream. If your dream's not big enough, you will have a crisis. Period. Right? If your dream's not big enough, you will have a crisis. If you have a small dream and small crises, you will actually stay on the current path much longer. You'll see very little change. But if you have a huge crisis, you're going to see big change, or you're going to make transition. You're going to end your life, right? And if you have a huge dream, you're going to have huge growth, right? Now, if your dream is small, your growth will be small. If your crisis is small, your growth is small.
Man, that is profound. That is profound. I recently was listening to an audiobook from Kevin Trudeau, and he said, the difference between myself and you right now is the size of our dream and time. And it's just massive, having the ability to just imagine and flex your imagination and dream big is huge. Yeah. It's massive. And we do that when we onboard people. The first thing we get them to do is like, come up with a dream. Like and think big. Like don't settle. Don't put it in a box. Don't, reserve. What would you do if you couldn't fail? What would you do if money were no object? What would you do if, you had 2 lifetimes to achieve it? Yeah. And then put that down.
And in your experience, Corey, why do people not
have a dream?
Why do people not allow themselves to have that huge dream?
From my experience, having trained a couple of thousand people by now, young salespeople. These are young 18 to 23, even 17 to 25 or 30-year-old people coming out of the schooling system. And I'm not going to blame any institution or the government or anything. I'm just going to say that most of us have grown up in a culture where you're instructed to think about what they want you to think about. Right? Short-term challenges. Here's a test. Here's a project. Here is a task. Here is another some form of test. And you you spend your entire childhood jumping through hoops, and they put 95% of your focus on the hoops rather than your experience of the hoops, and then also the end vision. So they've never been taught how to think big. And then the other aspect is they've been told most of their lives that, you need to be this way to get that. So in order to deserve that, you need to be this. In order to be rich, you have to be incredibly smart. You have to be incredibly good looking. You have to be lucky. You have to be insert word, right? And then people start, making that true. Mm-hmm. So then when you ask them to think and dream, it's hard. They shut that down, right? So we're not teaching in school how to have a dream.
Absolutely.
We're not conditioning people to have a dream.
Actually, what we are doing in school is conditioning people. We're actually having them unlearn. And the question is, why is our education system built for unlearning? And the answer to that is to make good soldiers. It's to make good employees. It's to make good followers. It's to make people obedient workers, obedient citizens, passivity, right? They'll buy our goods. They'll take our drugs. They'll allow for our politics. And they'll make sure the 1% stays the 1%. Right? And so it's incredibly purposeful because it takes a child has unlimited imagination, right? And unlimited presence. And we beat that out of them. And so what happens is we make children childish rather than childlike. And these childish people become adults. And childish people want what they want, and they want it now. Childlike people imagine. They're playful, they're curious, they're loving, they're wonderful. We got to beat that out of them in education because we can't have that, because that will take away, the illusion is that will take away from the 1%.
And you touched on a really good point, Pat, when you talked about imagination and how that directly affects someone having a dream.
Yes.
Because it goes back to really who do you listen to? And if you're at home and your surroundings don't provide you with the encouragement to have a dream or the encouragement to do things outside your comfort zone or your capability at that point, then you're never really going to shoot for anything higher than what they say is possible.
Exactly.
I think that's where a lot of people get trapped too, because so many people out there have so many talents and gifts, but they never get to really utilize it because their environment just tells them not to.
Exactly.
So like that's a form of social programming that a lot of people do unconsciously as well.
What is the best form of education? If you want to actually have somebody adopt your ideas or follow you, what is the best form of education? When I say best, the most effective form, not best on the higher level. Is it not example? So I have the example of my parents of what it looks like to be successful. And so most of us live up to that example. We live up to it in our relationships. We live up to it financially. We live up to it in every way. And we actually parent ourselves the way we were parented. So if our dad says you'll never amount to anything, right? Then that inner voice will continue on in parenting us and telling us, hey, you'll never amount to anything. If our mother is not inspirational, which is mother energy, if she is not inspirational, if she is not only telling us we can do anything we want with our lives, but showing us we can do anything we want with our lives by doing it herself. If she is sacrificing herself for her family or her husband, then you've got a lot of undoing to do, right? Because you love your mother, right? And you become loyal to her by parenting yourself the same way. And then you say, it's my job to put other people first. It's my job to not follow my own dream. It's noble to be a rescuer. And I'm here to say bullshit. That's the most selfish thing a person can do, is take care of other people. Why? Because if you're taking care of other people, you're essentially disempowering them from taking care of themselves. And you're doing it for yourself because you fear being out of your comfort zone, because you want familiar, right? Familiar. Then you attach to, if I take care of other people, they'll owe me. The world will owe me. The universe will owe me. I'll have good karma. So it's not unselfish at all. It's very selfish. And if everybody thinks they need to take care of everyone else, and the only person that can truly take care of you is you, while you're taking care of other people, you're not taking care of yourself. You're in disease. And you're convincing other people that you can take care of them so they don't have to, so they're in disease. So the whole planet is filled with disease. All from that example of dad sacrifices himself to bring home the paycheck, and mom sacrifices herself to take care of us. And I'll do both. I'll choose a profession that puts money on the table, and I'll take care of people. And if I can choose a profession that puts money on the table and takes care of others, I'm golden. And I don't wonder why I have heart disease and a heart attack and depression, anxiety, emotional illness. Right? What is illness? It's in the word. Illness. Right? Illness. It's attachment to the ego. Right? True wellness is we-illness. It is the sense of we. We are one. We are not I in the sense of identity. We are I in the sense of infinite, which includes all of us. And if I take care of me, I take care of everyone. Because I become an example of what it looks like to take care of myself. And because if I am connected to the all, then I am taking care of the universe. Look within, and you'll never be without. Look without, and you will always be without. And so, is that not where health comes from? Again, another great word, health. Heal, right? So health is just simply continually healing from the pain of childbirth, from the pain of our first abandonment, from the pain of feeling we're not loved, from the pain of our parents getting overjoyed when we take our first step. Why the pain of childbirth? My God, you're being separated from the all. You're being separated from mother, right? It's the first abandonment. It's original sin. Original separation is being born. Why, when my parents get overjoyed when I take my first step, I learn immediately. My job is to take care of other people by doing what they need me to do to be happy. I walk, they clap. I knock over a vase, they cry or they yell. It's my job, it's my responsibility to take care of other people, not only physically, but their feelings. And you do not have the responsibility for someone else.
And Pat, amazing points. Now, is there any exercise that a person can do in terms of exercising their self-responsibility versus loyalty to other people? If you could recommend something, what would that be?
Excellent. Well, what we have to give up, first of all, you mentioned a great word. Like the key, the answer is always in your question. And I want all of you to know that all the time. The answer is always in the question. Do you think I should stop eating processed food? And will that help me? Is the answer in your question. Do you think I should get out of this relationship? I'm miserable. Is the answer in the question. Loyalty, your question. You spoke about loyalty. For me, loyalty is the most disrespectful energy there is. And what is our society built on? You need to be loyal, right? And so what's the word for loyalty? Compliance. So loyalty is disrespect when it's compliance, although we think it's respect. I respect you, I comply to you, I do everything you want me to do because I respect you. Bullshit, right? Because What compliance is I'll do what you want me to do because I don't respect you enough to think that if I don't live up to your values, you'll be okay. And I don't respect you enough to think that if I don't be compliant to you, if I'm not compliant to you, you'll leave me. I think so little of you, I think I need to be compliant to you in order for you to love me, that your love is conditional. That's how little I think of you. And I think so little of me, I don't think I can be my own person. Right? So I'm disrespecting us both. We get it when we see defiance as disrespect. I'm defying you. Everything you want me to do, I'll do the opposite. It's fucking loyalty, isn't it? Right? If I'm not doing what I want to do, not what's right for me, not the things that you do that work for me, but I'm doing the opposite of everything you want from me, I am loyal to you by doing the opposite of what you want. I'm not doing what's good for me. I'm doing the opposite of what's good for you. And so respect is, here's what's amazing about you. What I see is amazing. Here's the values you have that I also embrace. I'm going to take those with respect and thank you. And then here's things that you do or you act out or you believe in that just don't fit with me. There's nothing wrong with them. They're absolutely wonderful. And from your perspective, I can see them as valuable. And from your point of view, they've likely worked for you to save you in many instances. And so I'm going to respectfully hand those back without judgment. And so that may be the answer to your question is learning respect for yourself by not having to be what other people need you to be. And it's not even true. We assume what the other person needs us to be and we become that. And they always say, I never told you to do that.
That's so true. You always just assume.
Yes. Acts out of you and me.
You never ask.
Yeah.
It's always this blank belief that they just think that.
Yes.
And you never go and question it or you never take responsibility in addressing it.
Exactly.
You just take the easy way out and then just assume.
You just assume. We think because we're all speaking the same language, English, we're speaking the same language, and not at all. Each one of you hears whatever we're talking about today differently. Right? Each one of you processes it through your own unique filters. Each one of you forgets certain things, remembers certain things. Good points for you are not for you, and other points are more important. Is that not respect? I'll take what serves me. I'll leave the rest behind. I'm even doing it unconsciously. I'm blanking out. I go blank when he's talking about certain stuff. Oh, man, if he says that word God, then I check out because I was raised Catholic and it was really unfortunate, and so I just can't hear that word, so I'm going to blank out there. But when he talks about responsibility or discipline or motivation and makes those negative things in the way society usually sees those things, now I'm interested. Motivation's bad. Loyalty's bad. Discipline bad? Why is that? What's wrong with this fucking guy? And here's why. Motivation. Why is motivation bad? If I'm motivated, I am coming from a place of fear or shame. Why is that? Because I'm afraid of being where I am now, or I'm afraid of not getting to where I want to go, or I'm ashamed of where I am now, and I feel I need to be somewhere else, right? And so if I'm carrying a lot of self-worth issues, if I'm carrying a lot of pain, if I'm carrying a lot of shame and or fear, I'm really motivated, right? I'm going to get there. I'm going to do it, right? Even if it kills me, I'm going to get there. Listen to that language. Even if it kills me, I'm going to get there. That's the whole point of what we were talking about earlier when we make goals more important than us, right? It's okay to kill me as long as I get the goal. And yet some part of me thinks the goal will make me happy, but I'm willing to kill myself for it, so it probably can't. Whereas inspiration comes from love. I am in spirit. I am in love with me. There is nothing wrong with where I am now, right? There is nothing shameful of where I am now. And because where I am now is so wonderful, where we are now is so wonderful, I'm going to expand on what's wonderful instead of try and focus on what's not. And then what is wonderful in my life expands and gets bigger because I love who I am and where I am. And I grow exponentially. If I hate where I am and who I am, then I am motivated to leave this person behind. And my God, how can you be happy when you reach your goal if you've left yourself behind, right? If you hate yourself so much that the goal is more important than the person who has the goal. And to the degree the goals become less important, you achieve them, right? Because what I want, I push away. If the universe is ever giving, and I'm in a place of want, I'm telling the universe, I'm wanting. And the universe is saying, but I've given you everything you want. So if you're wanting, you must continue to want. So I'll make sure you keep wanting. And if your energy is inspiration, I'm not wanting, I'm receiving. It just keeps coming to me. Then the universe says, well, his energy is receiving. We'll just keep giving. Because who wants to give a gift that the person won't receive it? How difficult is that? You know?
Hey, Pat, I just wanted to go back to when you talked about respect and taking what works for you and then disregarding what doesn't. I think that's a big proponent of what we preach, and what's true for you is what's true for you. And I think when it comes to health, I think that's a big problem when you talked about loyalty is people are looking for that external source. They go to a doctor and they take whatever they say for gospel, and they're so loyal to them instead of really listening to themselves and what's really true for them and what works for them. And instead of saying, I'll take a little bit what they say and I'll disregard what didn't resonate with me.
Just be careful. The one thing you want to be careful of is that word disregard. Because is that not lacking respect? I don't want to disregard what you say. Because if I disregard, I'm not respecting.
Okay.
Right? So I don't disregard. I say, that is really cool that you believe taking pharmaceuticals is a good idea. I can see based on your education, based on your history, based on how many people you've seen benefit, based on what you've been told, how that would be true. And for a big part of me, it's just not true. I'm not going to disregard that because part of me believes it's true. If we're all one, then you are part of me.
Yeah.
And the part of me that believes pharmaceuticals are good is the part of me that says we, at times, need pharmaceuticals, right?
Yeah.
To numb out, purposely and consciously, symptoms so that we can get a reprieve so we can actually tackle the real causation.
For sure.
If we ignore that and we don't use it as a reprieve, we use it as a fix, then we'll need more and more pharmaceuticals at higher and higher doses. But I don't disregard what you say.
I understand.
Because it's 100% true for you.
Okay, well said.
Yeah.
I stand corrected. Can you just touch on how important that is when it comes to the health side of the equation and having people really truly listen to themselves? Corey and I, when we go and we speak to groups and we speak to companies, I always tell people, I'm not here to preach gospel. I'm here to open your eyes and for you to make your own decision. I think when it comes to health, that is such a key component of it. Can you just touch on maybe how people should really listen to themselves and what really works for them when it comes to their body and the health of their children and their families?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to bring that crazy word in that I don't usually...
Closer to your mouth.
That I don't usually use a lot. I try and mix it up with creator, source, force, whatever you like. But God. If we talk about... there's that saying that when I pray, I'm talking to God. When I meditate, I'm listening. So your question was, how do people listen to themselves? Mm-hmm. Meditation is a great way to do it. And there's no rules, by the way, right? You don't have to sit cross-legged quietly in a room. There's walking meditation. There's breathing meditation. I consider my workouts a meditation, right? Because aren't they, really? I mean, anybody who's worked out, I know Andrew for sure. I mean, with the intensity that you train, right? Is it not the only place that every other thought except what's right in front of you in the moment, right? is possible. It's the one time where your mind goes quiet, except for what's in front of you, right? You're focusing on that one muscle, on that one exercise, on that one barbell. And if meditation is singleness of thought, right? I'm focusing on my breath, or I'm focusing on an object, or I'm focusing on my third eye, then weightlifting is a form of meditation. The other thing about it is just being, it's also a form of meditation, but just being still, of letting go. Letting go of the idea of past and how it determines the now, right? Letting go of the future and how it determines the now. Because both are illusions, right? For me, all there is now. The past is created from now. I create a past in my mind right now that supports where I am right now. The past doesn't determine where I am now. Where I am now determines my past. So where I am now, I look back at my past, which isn't my past, because we talked about it earlier. You're taking in everything, but you only process a very small amount. So it's a very small snapshot of your so-called past. And I twist that past, I manipulate that past into, if I'm in a negative place right now, into a negative story to support where I am now. Instead of looking at that past story and going, that was the most empowering experience of my life, I just chose to see it negatively, and now it supports me here with no money, no girlfriend, no life, and anxiety. Right? And the illusion, the future is equally an illusion. If I look at the future, well, it's now. It's now. It's now. There is no future.
And Pat, can we just step back? Really great insight there, and I wanted to take it back to, so we talked about dream as one way to invite change.
Yes.
And then also a traumatic experience. So I'm going to pass the mic to Matt because he recently had, a little accident that kind of just like woke him out of his, out of the funk that he was in. Mm-hmm. And it just gave him a different outlook and a different feel towards life. So Matt, I want you to talk about that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dad, for bringing that up.
So we're talking about what moments that evoke change. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll just kind of give the story on what happened so everyone has context, and then I'll explain how I felt after and how it's been since. So it was a couple weeks ago. I was out hiking with Mr. Andrew here and a good friend of mine, Conrad. We were up climbing Big Chief. Normal hike, regular hike. Everything was going great. We're having a good time. And I steered off the beaten path, and we went to a waterfall. And I went to dip my head under the waterfall and lost my footing, and I landed face first on a rock. And it was a pretty gruesome accident at the time. I took about 30 stitches in my face, broke my nose, busted my tooth. My face was swollen pretty good, and it was an enormously traumatic experience, the most damage I've ever taken at one time. And I had this, and I've mentioned it before, this immensely cathartic experience. After Andrew and Conrad, they took care of me and took me home and watched over me because I probably had a concussion as well. And then I called my brother Corey, and I don't know, there was like this ultimate release. And you talked about a traumatic crisis having big growth. I felt, and it's hard to explain it. It's almost like a spiritual experience after I spoke to Corey. Like I've never really shown weakness in front of Corey. I've always been that big brother figure. And to call him and literally break down on the phone like I did was so emotionally purging for me. And it felt phenomenal. And it felt like a huge release that I've been building up for so long. All this negativity, all this fear, all this anxiety. And it just like it got lifted off me after that point. And from that point, a lot of good things happened. I started focusing a lot more at work. I got a lot more involved with Muscle Mind, started doing talks at businesses. It just kind of spearheaded me into this big growth that you talked about. And Dad, thanks for bringing it up because it was a very traumatic incident for me that led me to this next step or this next big growth in my life. And it was, at the time, it was hard to see, but now when Steve Jobs talks about looking back and seeing the dots and connecting them, it was such an important growth experience for me. And that resonated with me when you talked about the traumatic experience. So thanks for bringing that up.
That for me is powerful. I mean, that is incredibly powerful. With respect, I want to say a huge congratulations on that fall. Yeah, a huge congratulations on that fall, because it woke you up. It broke you out of a slump.
Yep.
And if numbness is a higher level of pain, then thank God you could experience pain to wake you up to an injury that was already there. Part of you in judgment about another part of you. In jury. I'm in jury about myself. And then I fall down to manifest that in jury so I can actually deal with it. And the in jury has to do with my face. I've made my face, how I look, my persona more important than me. And so what does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? What does it profit a man to lose his world and gain his soul? Right? And so congratulations, because you were invited to see what you made likely an important part of who you are. Unimportant, right? That who you are became more important. So before that accident, I would guess you were more focused on how people saw you. After the accident, you were more focused on sharing experience, sharing yourself with others, and teaching through example. True?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience where I was bodybuilding and looked great on the outside, was a mess on the inside, completely fell apart, couldn't train at all, lost all kinds of weight, and learned to love me in that place. Because I couldn't love me the other way, because I made externally more important than internally. And I had to hit bottom, my bottom.
Yeah.
And so you hit bottom of the riverbed or the rock bed.
Yeah, but that's where that's where you said the growth, when you hit, I listened to Grant Cardone, he talks about when you hit the bottom with your feet, use it as a launching platform and push off as hard as you can. And
you did it better. You hit the bottom with your face.
Yeah. All right, and that wraps up this session with Pat Cross. Pat, we want to thank you for your time, and tune in next time.
Thanks again for tuning in to Living at the Highest Level. We'll see you next week.